Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to be talking about Dungeons & Dragons commentating and the ramifications of choosing to do Dungeons & Dragons commentating. So a little bit of a warning. I appreciate everybody who listens to this channel, but this video today is going to have a really narrow scope. I'm just going to be talking to people who do D&D commentating, and that is actually specifically through YouTube or Twitch. There's a lot of them. There's easily 1,000. There might be as many as 10,000 D&D commentators. So these are people who commentate on the life element that is Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, and Dungeons and Dragons is huge. It's an element of Americana. It's a rich, vibrant aspect of a lot of people's lives. It's a focus of a lot of people's lives, and it's really an important part of Americana, right? And because of that, literally thousands of people commentate on Dungeons & Dragons on YouTube and Twitch. There's some other places where people, but anybody who's commentating on Dungeons & Dragons in places other than D&D and Twitch, it's probably a waste of time. You should move that content onto D&D. Sometimes you could do a practice round. I see a lot of D&D commentators use blogs and by the way, if you're wasting your time on podcasts, for the love of goodness, just get a webcam and realize that you can cut the audio out of your video and that's your podcast. Like, there's no reason in the world anybody should be podcasting anything anymore. It's 80% of the work of cutting video so that you could reach a market 10% is large. Podcasting is a waste of time. All right. And so they'll do blogs and they'll do podcasts, and often that's it's a practice for the stuff they'll put on D&D and Twitch, right? So there is commentary on other areas. I don't think it matters much because it reaches such incredibly small areas, right? With low impact, right? You can have a small group of watchers and a small group of viewers if it's reaching the highest levels of the industry, especially in Dungeons & Dragons. Because it is a niche product. Dungeons & Dragons, tabletop role-playing games are a niche industry, and Dungeons & Dragons is a niche product. There's no two ways about that, right? The entire the entire tabletop role-playing game industry, the tabletop role-playing game industry, the books, like the tabletop role-playing games, that entire market is less than $100 million a year, right? Which is that's half the budget on a AAA video game. It's crazy how small tabletop role-playing games are. So I'm going to be talking to those people today. And so what I want to talk about today, and I also want to talk a little bit about why I'm talking about this, right? So why should I commentate to D&D commentators? We're there, baby. We got to start talking about optimization of D&D commentating. We have thousands of videos on optimizing your Dungeon Master style. We have thousands of videos on optimizing your Dungeons & Dragons player style and your options you have and what you can do, your activity, right? Who's commentating on commentating? Who's commentating on Dungeons & Dragons commentating? Nobody, right? It's incredibly rare, right? So I'm going to start, because the reason why is we're there. Dungeons & Dragons has succeeded at such a tremendous level, right? And the importance of this life element that is Dungeons & Dragons, it's so important that we've reached a point where we need to commentate on the commentating, okay? And so let's jump into it. So one of the things I want to talk about today, if you are a D&D commentator, I want you to reflect on a question, okay? Who is your D&D commentating helping, okay? Because one of the things I've realized recently is the vast majority of Dungeons & Dragons commentating helps the worst players, the absolute worst players, okay? So one of the things is Tasha's brought this to light, right? There's so many virtually every single major D&D commentator that I know has done a subclass tier list, right? Saying these are the best, right? There's a huge amount of time and effort put into these things, and all they do is feed the most monstrous players at your table, right? They give your players with the least amount of imagination, the least amount of innovation, the least amount of sympathy for the rest of the players at their table, and it just gives them the best mechanical build so they can dominate your table. It's the worst. It is the least valued commentary, right? I'm not saying it doesn't have any value. I'm saying it's the least valued commentary, but it is what you will find the most, right? So that's just one sweep, right? But I want you to think, right, as you've built your Dungeons and Dragons commentary channel, right, who are you helping, right? And the reason why is I know a lot of D&D commentators personally, both on Twitch and YouTube, okay? And we have conversations. We have back channel conversations all the time, right? It's just incredible, right? And I could tell you a few different types, right? So one, there are what I call the Raiders of the Lost Ark commentary people. These are people whose channels have broad appeal and who are actually providing valuable commentary that helps the community, helps players, and helps dungeon masters, okay? And these are really helpful D&D commentary channels, right? YouTube channels, Twitch channels. And they are a little bit rare. There aren't many of them, okay? It is incredibly rare to get scale, to get a lot of views, like 50, 100,000, even more views, right? And to be able to supply commentary that actually helps all players at the table, and actually the majority of the players at the table, and the majority of dungeon masters. There's a tiny, tiny little thread, right, of them. I'm not going to name names, right? I don't think that's appropriate at this juncture, right? So there we have it, right? And those are the Raider of the Lost Ark commentary people. The one Raider, and why do I use Raiders of the Lost Ark as an example? That's a movie, right? That has been widely embraced, is enjoyed by the masses, but is also critically acclaimed. So the masses are like, this is a great action movie, right? But the critics are like, this is an incredibly well-crafted film that has a message, that is exciting, that people can engage with, and that is actually art, right? And so that's where you want your channel to land, okay? And so it might seem obvious to you that I'm saying this. The reason why I'm talking about this today, this is not obvious. And I'll tell you right now, it is hard to build a D&D commentary channel, right? Now, I try to make my content as colorful and useful and fair and innovative and really useful as possible. You know what that means? I have an incredibly small viewer number, right? Not many people come to good. Nobody good. If you set out a bowl of ice cream and a bowl of vegetables, right? What are people going to eat? They're going to eat the ice cream, right? And that's what I'm saying is we got to be putting out the bowl of vegetables, right? We need to be the bowl of vegetables. But I'm not going to lie to you, right? If you switch to do content that is genuine, that is true art, that discusses serious subjects, and doesn't just feed the monster players, unless you can thread that needle, right? Your viewership is going to shrink. Not everybody shrinks. There are a few people who are out there who have been able to shoot that gap, go through the eye of the needle, and create commentary that is truly beautiful, but also appeals to the masses. That is a Raiders of the Lost Ark commentator, right? D&D commentator. They're very rare, actually. There's not many of them, okay? And the only reason I'm not going to call them out now is just by naming them, the people who would not be on the list would be a statement in itself. Okay, here's the real reason we're talking today, okay? When you go to build a D&D commentating channel, you're going to end up, right, with a decision on every single video. Does this get me more views, right? And it is so easy to get lost in that view chase that you would not believe what you could lose when you start that view chase. What can you lose when you start the view chase? I can tell you because I've seen it firsthand, right? I've seen channels go from literally 100 subs, right, to 100,000 subs. You know what it took to get there? I saw D&D commentators burn family relationships, burn friends, burn contributors, right? Burn them like fuel for views and momentum. It is so easy to get lost in the chase for building your channel up that you can very, very easily damage the relationships in your own life. I've seen it firsthand, right? I'm not saying I did this. I'm saying I witnessed it happen, right? This is very real, right? And the reality is the life element that is D&D is incredible. It is worth a lot. It has value. I don't think it's worth destroying relationships within your own family, relationships within your contributor queue, right? People who are helping you with your channel, and destroying relationships with friends. I don't think it's worth that, right? But it is, once you start the chase for views, for subs, for views, for likes, it's so easy to lose track of what you are actually doing, that you can end up in a bad space very, very quickly, right? I'll give you an example of, and this is why my views get 50 to 150 views on D&D, right? Like, if I'm lucky, right? Very, very small, right? I have relationships with YouTubers who have 100,000 subs. They get tens of thousands of views on their videos. They watch my videos. I don't watch theirs anymore, right? That's quality. That's art, right? This is a warning, right? I don't need their content, because I could get it anywhere, right? When you are building your D&D commentary, right? When you are building your channel, right? Remember who you're supposed to be serving. You're supposed to be serving players. You're supposed to be serving dungeon masters. You're supposed to be serving, right, the community, the D&D community, the contributors who contribute to what you're saying. If you burn them like fuel, that is wrong, right? And here's the issue, right? And the other thing is, and when you go down this road, you're going to start making content where the content is not really helpful to many people at all. It's really like, and so what you end up being is a Transformers Dungeons & Dragons commentator. So let's talk about Michael Bay's Transformers. We all flirted with the idea that this was a good series of movies that had value, right? At the beginning, I liked the first one, right? I'm like, okay, we're building a movie series around a toy line from the 80s. Let's see what we got. I owe myself an apology for watching 4 and for 5, right? There's always this hope that there's going to be something there, but Michael Bay insisted to everyone, right, that there was never anything, there's never any art in this. This was about helping him as a producer, helping him as a director, and like, he burned his viewers for fuel to go forward, right? And to make, the idea, it's incredibly hard at this point to actually say that the Transformers movies are a piece of art and not a commodity, right? Like, anyone who watches those films, they hired a guy named Michael Chabon. Michael Chabon wrote the Yiddish Man's Chess Club. I think that's one of his books. Guy's won like Nebulas and Hugos and been nominated for both, I think. It's crazy. He's an incredibly talented writer. They brought him on to do some writing in Transformers 5. The script, you couldn't even tell what the story was. You had no idea who the characters were. It was just like CGI was barfed on the screen, right? But it got millions of views and it made millions of dollars, right? And you could be that Michael Bay, you could be that Transformers style Dungeons & Dragons commentator. There's money there, there's views there, right? But the reality is, no one thinks that Michael Bay is Steven Spielberg. You got to make your choices, right? You really need to make your choices. And I'm talking about this today for the people who, in my opinion, really don't even know that for the people who are lost. They're lost in the chase for views. They're lost trying to grow a channel, right? And the reality is, what they're doing is they're feeding the monster players, and they're leaving the good DMs and the good the good players, with chaff, with nothing, right? And if they're watching those channels, they're becoming worse DMs and worse players. We need to think about the value of what we do, right? And the reason why is D&D's arrived. It's there, man. It's enjoying levels of success that have never been seen before, right? And there's a lot of arguments that 2020 Dungeons & Dragons has surpassed 1990s Dungeons & Dragons. It's pretty fascinating, right? All that's my opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.